I've had a credit card. I had a specific credit card for like my go-to card for shoot better part of 10 years. I've
Wow, you're
never paid it.
old.
And you're bald.
Rio, 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 Rio.
Yo, what's good? What's happening? Welcome to the Hey Bruh, You Seen This podcast, where we talk about everything from fatherhood to entertainment to what's trending out there. Just imagine kicking back and chopping it up with your people. That's what we're here to do. I am your host, co-host, Smoke, or if you feel so obliged, you can call me Troy. I am here with my co-host, King Deem. What's going on, Deem?
What's going on, man? King Deem on the bike. You already know what it is, man. How you living
Yes.
today? How
I'm
you
living
living today?
good. I'm living good, man. So what we got for the people today, man? What we got?
All right, so today, man, we're going to get into a few different topics. You know, we're going to talk a little bit more about fatherhood. We're going to get into some just random thoughts. We're going to get into our pockets a little bit, and we're going to talk about some finances. You know, y'all get ready for a nice little conversation that we're going to have going. You know what I'm saying? Kick back, pour yourself a nice little drink.
Pour that yak,
Ladies,
man.
get you some wine, you know what I'm saying? Or, just buckle up on the ride.
Just
We
sit
here,
back.
we here, and we about to get this thing rolling for y'all, man. So, thanks for
I like
listening in and cooking that link.
Hey, I like it. All right, man. So I heard you, man. You said we got fatherhood up first, man. What you want to talk about as far as fatherhood, pops?
Man, man, I just wanna. It's crazy these days, man. Like the world is a crazy place. It's a lot more different than we've ever seen it. You know what I'm saying? I'm 28, and the world is just much more different now than I've ever seen it in all my years of life. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it gets me to thinking. We grew up in a different time, but we have to raise a child as all parents do. Well, not all, but most parents have to raise a child in a different time. You know what I'm saying? And in this time, it's just really crazy, and it's different than a lot of us have ever seen before. So, my question today is like, how do you feel about raising a child in this new generation?
Yeah, this can last the whole episode. It's you right, man. It is kind of crazy out here these days, man. And it's crazy. I don't even know if I want to say it is crazy, but it's just so different, right? You got kids who, like, when we was young, we used to go outside and play. Now technology is such a huge thing. It's like kids are so dependent on it, and I think they're starting to lack the social dynamic that I feel like is needed to get out here. So, like, in many ways, I'll be feeling like, man, are we gonna be raising like little social weirdos, bro, who don't know how to really talk to each other, or kind of don't know how to engage each other, stuff like that. It is definitely a new frontier. I think for parenting, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I really get what you're saying, cause like I know. Shoot, I mean, I was outside when I was little, and then judging by your skin color, I know you was outside. So, you know what I mean? Like,
I was outside plenty,
we
my boy. Plenty, plenty,
we was
plenty.
outside. So it's just like we taught the kids, and then I mean, for me too, I went to like the Boys and Girls Club, and as I told you, I played a lot of different sports and things of that nature, and because of like now the health things that are going on, and on top of everything else about just the racial killings and all these types of things. It's like you almost get kind of scared to have your child to be social, you know what I mean, because you
Right.
just can't trust people, and you never know who's who and who's gonna do what. So it's a scary feeling, you know what I mean, and it's definitely something that makes you a little more cautious and definitely a little more careful when you doing things,
Yeah.
especially with a child.
No, I agree. I agree. As you were saying that, what came to mind was like I mentioned earlier, like the impact of like technology and specifically like social media on kids and what that's doing. Like I got a question for you. All right, at what age are you gonna let your kids, I guess, have a cell phone or have social media? Like when do you think that's appropriate? Because I feel like now you seeing people our age, and maybe not our age, because we don't really have kids that are that old just yet in our age group, but those a little bit older than us who got like preteens, their kids are on like Instagram and on TikTok and everything else. And I know a common thing that's going on now is like these kids are so dependent on likes and acknowledgement from social media to kind of get a foundation for who they are. You feel me? So like if you're on like they're on there trying to prove themselves, and like when they don't get it, like bro, they like some of these kids are killing themselves, bro, because their self esteem is lacking. So like at what point? At what point do you feel like you're gonna, I guess, say like, all right, cool.
That's a very, very tough question. And honestly,
And
of
it doesn't
course,
have to be
that's
an age. It doesn't have to be an age. We can just like we talked about our last topic.
yeah,
It can just be a certain time that it makes sense.
yeah. Like, see, it's still tough because, like, for me, like, just off the if I'm answering that, like, as I got to say the first thing that comes to mind, I want to do it like how I was raised because I feel like I came out all right. Um, I didn't get a phone until maybe like seventh grade or something. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, what did I need a phone for real? You know what I'm saying? Like what did I really need a phone for?
Right.
But then I started playing sports and staying after school and things
Hmm.
of that nature. So I needed a phone. You know what I mean? So I think honestly I would just be like when she like needs a phone, okay, she can get a phone because like
Yeah.
most times does a child really need a phone? You know what I mean? Like what are they gonna do in it besides play games?
But you see
Like
this.
how often are they gonna be away from you like that?
I agree. I agree. Definitely, when there's a necessity, like okay, I need to be able to communicate with you on the immediately, right? But as you said, I was just thinking. I was like, I remember back when I was young. I got my phone around the same time. I was in middle school, like seventh grade or something like that. And I remember one of the driving factors for me wanting a phone was everybody else around me was getting a phone, right? So that pressure is gonna be there for be like, yo, everybody has a phone, everybody's on Twitter. Well, if it's gonna be Twitter at that time, but everybody's on this website or on this app, and like then it's gonna be. I think there's gonna be a pressure that parents are gonna face by trying to hold back their kids. So it's gonna be an interesting dilemma, my guy.
That's very true, and I can see that. I can see that being an issue for sure. Like, but me, I can't speak on any other parents, but like, anyone who knows me, like, I don't give a. I do not care about none of that. Like, what? I don't care. I don't care who got what. But like, I really like. I'm just gonna sit there with the stalest face, like, playing the smallest violin in the world, bro. Like I do not care who got what, bro. Like they not my kid.
I,
They not
you
my
know,
kid. And when you grow up, you'll see. That's when you grow up, you will see what I'm talking about.
I hear you. I hear you. But like you just mentioned, you
I
have a daughter. And you
yes.
know how daughters can play their dads. You gonna be playing the violin, and she gonna be playing your heartstrings, my boy. So we'll see. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe you stick
we'll
to your
see.
guns.
We'll see. But yeah, that's not a good argument with me. I'm gonna need a little bit of better argument, for that.
Right.
I can't take that. I can't take that as one.
Nah, I feel you. I feel you. Well, what about I guess in some ways too that's come to mind. Like I was talking about kids not going outside like they used to. It's kind of like shoot, you're a great example, right? You were in so many organized sports to get out, so you really had no choice. Your parents was very forward thinking on saying like, hey man, let's get this kid out there and playing with other people and growing those certain personality traits that you need out here in the world. Um, is that something? Oh, shoot, I don't know. I already know this answer. I'm sure you're gonna do the same thing with your kids, but like, what are your thoughts on that?
See, it's I mean it's like I was speaking on earlier. The times are different, um, and it's also gonna it's just gonna be a conversation because I'm not the only one raising my child. So
Right.
I may want my child to be out and be sociable and meet kids. I feel like the Boys and Girls Club is a good place because you get molded. You get a little bit of everything. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? The good and the bad and the ugly. But I feel like
Facts.
all of that is needed. To build your character up and to give you. Everybody needs a little strength, whether you are a boy or a girl, a man or woman. Everybody need a little strength, a little exterior, a little bit of experience from all different types of cultures. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
hey, man,
So
those type of situations, it's almost like Michelangelo chipping away at your foundation to what like creating
yeah,
whatever
that's
you
a
really
bar.
gonna be as an adult. Yeah, that shit was clean. That shit was clean. As I heard it, I was like, ooh, ooh.
That's a bar.
But
That's a
but
bar.
nah, it's like that really what it is, bro. Like you deal. It's gonna be times like whatever you are as a kid, you may be one of the popular kids, maybe you're the one that's picked on, but in all of it, there's lessons to be learned in grooming, not necessarily grooming from other people, but just like grooming that's taking place with you and your environment, and just growing from it. I think for me, raising I'm raising a boy. Some things I've thought about before is like, okay, first off, I'm an active person, so I'm like, hey, we finna be going outside. Like, let's shoot the ball, let's throw the football, let's go here, let's do that, so on and so forth. But another thought I've thought about was like, how am I gonna handle like certain like playing certain sports and what they're gonna play versus not playing, because that's another conversation that comes up a whole lot these days too. And like, I know me personally, like my love as far as like sports was football over everything. You feel me? Um, but at the same time, I found myself wondering, like, man,
Mm.
am I gonna let my boy play football?
Mm.
And
Mm. Mm.
not because like there's the sport. It's the sport is like I dislike it or I don't love it. It's just the fact that, man, like surrounding that sport is so violent, bruh. It's so violent, and it's
Lasting effects.
yeah, and like you got, and we from Florida, bro. So we from the state where we groom them young when it comes to the sports, specifically football. You feel me? We in Pop Warner, you playing ball at like 6'5", like that
Facts.
early, and it's not just like two-hand touch. No, you getting tackled, like, and you got
Facts.
some boys out there who gonna lay that slap on you. And I like one thing I've had a conversation with other people about is like when you start that early in age, it's almost like you're teaching this kid be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive. But turn it off when you're off the field, right? And you're trying to teach them how to flip that switch. And I feel like a lot of the things we be seeing, bro, with whether it's the NFL, whether it's college, whether it's high school, whether whatever, bro. Because I played ball with certain people, and I, I I can say I had a hot temper as a youngin, but I wouldn't attribute that to football per se. That was just that's the Jamaican in me, I guess. I don't know, but like I like people I played with, like it's certain dudes out there, bro. Like the aggressiveness, it was the same on the field and off the field, bro. And I wonder,
Yeah.
like when you see these dudes in college and in the pros who continue to get into the same situations, and they can't. It's like they can't turn it off to be like, all right, boom, this is how I
Yeah.
approach things on the field, but I'm chilling when I'm outside. You feel me?
Facts.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
It's a lot to have to try to maneuver that, and I mean that just comes with being a father, though. It's a lot of things that it's gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna want to do and we envision and we plan for that's just not gonna happen.
right.
And at the end of the day, we just gotta realize that we just gotta do our best. You know what I'm saying? We gotta realize that we've done our best, and that at the end of the day they are gonna grow up and make their own decisions, and we have to support them to the best of our abilities, and that's just kind of, how I see it. But we can definitely do our part to try to have a big of a role as we want, as we should. So
I agree. Yeah, we can't, and none of that stuff, man. I don't think a father or a mother, any parent should be forcing their kids to do. Don't live through your kids, bro. Like, stop living through your kids. Like, if you didn't make it to the NFL or to the pros or whatever it was, don't try to live through your kid and be like, oh, and basically trying to make this kid a lottery ticket, bro. Like, get to know your kid and figure out what they into, man. Like I'm talking about the whole thought of playing football, but maybe my son gonna be like, nah, I ain't even really interested. And if that's the case, like, shit, all right, cool. We gonna do something. I don't know what you gonna do. Like, do you want to play tennis? All right, let's ride out. Do you want to learn how to play golf? Cool. I'll be playing it on my phone.
Yeah,
I know a little bit.
Like what if he what if he doesn't what if he chooses like to not play any sports? Like, how would that make you feel?
I guess, honest and truthfully, it would be disappointing, right? Because there's that feeling as a father, you want to be out there and be at your kid's game and be like that excitement, right? Like when I would watch my boys play, like in their own games, like when I went off to college and my other boys continue to play college ball and go to their games, bro. Like I'm hyped. You feel me? Or when I would see I would go back to my high school and see the young boys play. Oh, I'm hyped. You feel me? So there's that feeling of like, I want to be that dude in the stands who's that pops hype the whole time, got the towel, yelling that name, keeping them. That's just my personality when it comes to that aspect. So yeah, I would be disappointed, but end of the day, you're you and I'm me. So it is what it is. But you're going to do something. It don't have to be sports. Let's learn how to play the piano.
You could be like that at the chess tournament, but like you just can't be that loud,
Yeah, true. True. Spelling bee. You get they can't see the video, but I'm just
he's
shaking it up real quiet.
Real quiet, throwing the towel around.
What was that? Petey Pablo. Song? Yeah, they're
take your shirt off
like a helicopter.
Spit it like a helicopter. North Carolina, razor. Take your shirt off.
Man. Shout out to Raleigh, man. Helicopter. Shout out to Raleigh. Oh man, that's crazy, man. Shout out Raleigh and Durham, actually. Yeah, but it's whatever. Like maybe he may want to sing.
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah.
But so let's keep going. You're raising a girl. I'm raising a boy. Right? We're so early in the game right now. Gender has not become a thing for us just yet, and like how to handle that. But like, how do you feel about raising, the opposite sex? Like as far as raising a young girl.
Yeah, like
into a woman, basically.
I know it's gonna be a learning experience for sure, because I feel like as a man, you grow up, you just feel like, okay, if I have a boy, I would know what to do. You know what I mean? But with a girl, nah, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? I told my wife that I'm gonna get her a basketball goal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And but if she happens to play with it, whatnot. But like, I just like you said, I'm not gonna force nothing on her. You know what I mean? And with a girl, it's like, you still can have stuff that you want her to do, or you think that she, but it may be just on a whole nother spectrum. It could be like you want her to be like, all A's academic. You want her to be top of her class, president of National Honor Society, all these things, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that may not be the case. She can end up being a C student. You know what I mein? And at the end of the day, I just have to realize, like I was saying before, I ain't gonna repeat myself again, but I did the best I could, and and she's going to make her own decisions and her own actions, and all I can do is support it to the best of my ability. And I end up repeating myself anyways.
It happens. But, so as you were talking, I was just thinking, I was like, thinking to myself, like, like I know your history. You've been a good dude for as much as I know you, stand-up guy. You feel me? I've always wondered, like, when we was young, we talked about having kids, and we used to say like to the dudes who was really wilding out here, right? And be like, you gonna get a girl, and like, and looking at it as a bad thing, right? And that's the young, immature side of us, right? You feel me? having a boy or girl, it doesn't matter. You feel me? You may have a preference or what you're like, whatever, but it doesn't matter. Just hope for a healthy baby, y'all. But do you ever think about like people who are like who they were, they were just out here wilding. They were sliding with no care in the world. You know, doing women how they want to do women. Do you ever wonder what that father may think when they are now tasked with raising a daughter? I do.
I think they would be actually very protective, and this, and I'm gonna say it's two sides of the spectrum, and then you have like, of course, every spectrum, at the middle you may have some who merge, but like I'm gonna say it's two sides of the spectrum. So you got one who's just gonna be overbearing, very protective, very like very strict, not letting her do much just because it's not her, you know what I'm saying? But he was out there before moving how he was moving. He knows how that goes, you know what I'm saying? Or you're going to have the other side of the spectrum where because he was doing that, he's going to teach that to his girl. And
teach you how to recognize it, basically.
Yeah, he's
recognize
going
it and be aware of
teach
all
her all that
situations.
game. And, and then that's how that's going to go. And then, like I said,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
May have people. I mean, I was pretty much done, but you may have people kind of like on both sides to where they are protective, and they tell them why they're protective because they give them that game.
Right. No, I think like you mentioned, you have the overprotective father, and then you have the one who's kind of like, hey, look, let me teach you something, right? I think the father who's saying, let me teach you something and have you like set you up to understand how men can move in this world and to identify certain situations and so on and so forth. That works out a lot better, bro, because I feel like time and time and time again, you see the examples of the fathers who try to be overprotective and keep their daughters sheltered, right? Keep them away from everything. Without, and I feel like maybe they realize this or maybe they don't. I don't know, but eventually that little girl is going to be out of your care, right? They're going to be out there by themselves, right? So now for the last, let's say 18 years, let's just say they go to college at 18. For the last 18 years, you've sheltered this child, didn't allow them to kind of grow and kind of experience things and make their mistakes on however they may do it. They now get to college and it's open season. And they're playing in the game that they don't know anything about the game because no one has truly told them like, all right, look, so you're gonna have this happen, so on and so forth. Like you have some girls who will get to college, bro, and never really had. Not to say that serious relationships happen in high school, but those I think are important steps in the growth of a boy or a girl, right? Because you learn something about interacting with the opposite sex, and okay, this is what a relationship is like. This is, or shoot. Sometimes you got to get played, bro. Like that's just how it have to happen, bro. Sometimes you got to get played.
And at the end of the day, I'm glad you said that because I always be telling people experience is probably the best teacher. You know what I mean? Like you can hear it a lot, but experience probably gonna be the best teacher. So we as parents have to remember that. Although we want to prevent it from happening, at the end of the day, it may be the best thing for them that it does happen to them, so they realize how it feels, realize how it happened, and then they can from that figure out how to do what they do. And
Facts. A lot of times you got to be broken down to be built back up into something better, bro.
Very much so.
That's just how that go. Man.
Very much so. And just in talking about raising kids and upbringing, that brings us to my next question, which is, does your upbringing truly affect your level of success in life?
Tremendously.
And
tremendously.
Let me not before you start. I know we sitting here and we talking. I do want to let y'all know we do care about y'all input. So if y'all have anything to add, or if y'all disagree with what we saying or agree or any type of input, please go ahead and drop it in the comments. Y'all can drop it in our personal DMs. Y'all can drop it in the DM for the podcast.
You can
Let
just
us
add us
know.
if you want to.
You could just add us. You know what I'm saying? And we may even, we may even read it on the show. So I just want
Exactly.
to put that out there. Anything we saying, you know what I'm saying? Y'all, we definitely looking forward to y'all input, and we gonna start bringing some people on the show, and y'all look forward to that. But go ahead,
Oh yeah,
Smoke.
that's gonna be fun. Yeah, no, I yes, it tremendously impacts your level of success in life, right? I think we have so many examples of it today, right? We can look at different communities, right? Who, let's say that your parents went to college. If your parents went to college, the chances of you going to college as their child and offspring are very high. Now, if that parent did not go to college, the chances of you going to college are not as high. It's not a guarantee that you are going to go or not going to go, but it's just about, in a way, I'm talking probability, right? I guess that's the engineering in me, but in the statistical part of it. But
So you saying it's a
yeah,
numbers game?
it in many ways it is, but it's not just the numbers per se. It's everything that's in the numbers, right? And exposure. That's what it's more about, exposure. Because again, I think you can look at so many different things. How do I want to say this? If you raise a kid up and you travel the world with that child, I guarantee you that child's outlook is going to be so different to the kid who grew up and really spent he's 18, he spent 17, 18 years of his life in the same city, like his whole life, and maybe visited the next city over. Like if you're in Florida, I guess, who you stayed in Miami your whole life, and then you made that trip to Orlando, but most likely you probably was always in Florida. So now how are you as that child going to be able to input on conversations about things that are going on in the Caribbean or in Europe or so on and so forth? So that's one example. Let's think. We can even talk about that in the standpoint of motivation and knowing what you can achieve, right? We look at our parents as a threshold, right? Whether it's consciously or subconsciously, we see them as a standard that we feel like we should be able to reach that, right? I think if you're self-aware enough, you say like, I'm gonna be better, and hopefully you have a parent who's telling you you will be better than me, and I will try to push you to be better than me, right? To go farther than I did in my life. If those kids who are the sons and daughters of C-suites, or for those who don't know what that means, executives at companies. So your VPs, your presidents, your directors, your politicians, right? Those kids are able to achieve that because they see their parents do it. But I am not going to ignore the obvious and glaring fact of all this: nepotism. You feel me? Nepotism plays a huge role in a lot of this stuff too, right? Connections. It's not always what you know; it's who you know, and it's very much who you know, right? Who can I expose you to? Who can I introduce you to? Who did you grow up alongside? Who is your parents' friend? Who has another kid who grows up to be something, right? It's all interconnected, man. And that's why, like, in many ways, and I'm not gonna go this far down this rabbit hole, but of like, they talk about the whole idea of us being 400 years behind of shit like that. That's a whole nother factor, right? When you talk about into the black community. So, but what do you think on the
Very
matter?
very
What do you
valid
think?
points, and I'm gonna say yes, it does affect it, but I was just going to say for all the opposite reasons that you said, as far as somebody who didn't have any of those, like so for the first point, as far as somebody who didn't travel the world and stayed in Florida that whole time, the first 2 points actually, they're gonna have that motivation to want to. I mean, not all of them, but you're gonna have some people who are gonna see that. They're just gonna see it. They're not gonna be able to touch it, feel it, and they're gonna want to, and it's gonna drive them so much to get to the point to where they're gonna be able to do that. Now, doing that may be through connections, through people they meet or whatnot. So I don't really have something to hit on that third point. But as far as the first two go,
Hmm.
um, just for those opposite reasons, that can definitely affect them in the positive as well as in the negative.
So I was,
But for both sides though, that can affect them in a negative too, because if somebody who's traveled the world, all of that, they can feel entitled to things of that nature, and they can come across something to where they don't value it as much, and they end up losing
oh yeah,
everything.
for
And
sure,
you
for
know,
sure.
so there's
I was gonna
two
say,
sides
I
to
was
each
gonna say,
coin.
yeah, you're right. I was gonna say to your rebuttal to the first 2 points of saying, you know, they're gonna see that they don't like they're not able to do a certain thing. In my head, I was just like, where are they gonna see it at? Like if no one's around you doing it, because I feel like that's what would happen. Like eventually,
I mean, they won't TV. I mean, TV exists. I feel like they're like I don't think it's gonna be where they're never gonna see it not one time. But I mean, I get
see,
what you're saying. Like if somebody
no,
never sees it, how can they? I mean, that makes sense. But at the
right.
same time, like TV, I mean, they're gonna be able to see a glimpse of it, and sometimes that glimpse is all they need.
I give you a good example, as you just said that about seeing it on TV. Uh, where I work with some guys who like with a group of people who from Mississippi, basically. Typically, they live more in the country area of Mississippi, which I didn't know they were that deep in Mississippi, but nonetheless, I remember having a conversation with a young guy. And he would look at me and would say like, "Yeah, man," like he thought like I came from a very well off home and situation. I didn't come from like the worst things ever, right? But I didn't come from like spoon in my mouth, everything's given that I asked for. That wasn't my case per se. But he just made that assumption, right? So what he saw where I'd gotten to in life as far as the position that I held in the company, and just felt like it's because of that, right? And the conversation then would evolve into us talking about big cities and living. Where do you want to live, or where do you want to go? And this young dude, and keep in mind, dude is younger than me. I think he was like 23 at the time when we were talking, and I think he was just striving to like his goal at the time was to become like a supervisor, which is an admirable goal. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But I remember I was challenging him to be like, "Yo, do you want more? Like, do you think about going back to school or so on and so forth?" And he was like, "Nah, I'm good." Then we started talking about like, "Bro, don't you want to like move to a big city?" And then he was talking about specifically Memphis, which is where I'm located. And he was saying like, "Yeah, man, nah, Memphis is crazy." And like in my head, I was like, "Yo," and I even said it to him, I was like, "Yo, Memphis is not the big city, man." He was like, "Man, it is a big city." I was like, "All right, so if Memphis is a big city, how do you look at New York and like Chicago's?" And it's like, "Oh, that's a whole nother planet." And this is someone who grown up in Mississippi all the way through. A vacation to him was going to where was it? I want to say, and I mean like a very
in a
vast,
different city.
extreme,
Different city.
going
No,
to a different city.
I know exactly what you mean.
Uh-huh.
I get exactly what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, like,
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. So I acknowledge exactly what you're saying, because I think I'm an example of that. I didn't travel the world like that as a kid, but what happened when I went to college and I got exposed to all these different types of people, I started realizing like, oh shit, like I kind of want to do that too, and like I believed I could do that, right? It wasn't a thought before, but then also when it becomes a thought, it's like, I probably can't do it, but I believe that I can do that. I can get to that point.
Yeah, because it's like you didn't necessarily know anybody who did any of that, right? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like but that's why I said I didn't have anything for the third part, because ultimately, I mean, it basically is the third part, whether it's directly or indirectly. You know somebody, or you read about somebody, or you see somebody who has something that you might want, or you it looks like that you want. You know what I mean? So that may be that thing that gets you on pursuit towards whatever. You know what I mean? But
Right.
yeah, it all depends on the person at the end of the day. Everybody doesn't have that muscle, or it may not hit everybody the same, or some people may be so stuck in their ways, and they've just, so defeated, and they've seen it so much to where they just don't even think it's possible.
It's a cycle. It's
Sad.
a cycle,
and
man.
we can get it, man. We can get into that. I have a crazy story, but should I share it right now? I got a crazy. Nah, we'll talk about it on another day when we really get into it. But I have a crazy story about just being like stuck, bro. Like just a dude just being stuck, bro.
Oh shit. Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like I can already hear the story you're about to tell. Yeah.
It's crazy, but.
Shoot, write that down in the notes, my boy. Yeah, we can cover that for sure. But getting back on that real quick and not to stay on it. Exposure, bro. Like, it's the exposure, I believe, is what breaks the cycle of mediocrity, or just
Facts.
your current situation, right? That's how you get out of it. Being exposed to different things and being pushed out of your usual box, and you having to morph into something else to get used to your new environment. You feel me? That's how it happens, and that's why I think it's like, I know me and my lady, bro. When it comes to our boy and whatnot, it's like we are already saying like, yo, we wanna travel here and do that. Like, already, he's 5 months and he's already gone to like 4 different states, right? Obviously, seeing grandparents and stuff like that, and just we went to Dallas or Texas, and so just taking them places and knowing like, all right, yeah, we're gonna go see this. Like, by the time you get to a certain age, you've done this and so on and so forth. But the one thing about exposure is that you need the finances at times to get the exposure, right? And I think that
Very much
that goes
so.
perfectly into the next topic, right? How important is it to get out of debt?
Man, that's number one. Number one, as somebody who's still not out of debt yet, like, that's number one. Cause it's so basic, but like, when you think about it, you're not really building anything. You can't build anything until you get out of debt. You're not really making no money until you get out of debt, because as long as you're in debt, you owe somebody. So that money,
Right.
is it really yours? You may be spending it on something else, not paying them, but at the end of the day, they still gonna need that money. They gonna need that ends. You better have my money. So,
Hey, it'll be clean if we could have that drop. But
nah,
we
we
get
ain't
flagged
paying Rihanna.
immediately.
She getting paid enough.
Exactly.
You fine though. But
Definitely got that.
no, we don't.
Hey, shout out to anyway, I'm gonna stay out of that. Yeah. Nah, it's important, bro, to get out of debt. As you mentioned, bro, like, clearing up your debt and being able to have that money be whatever's coming in is your money to do whatever you want with it that you want, right? One thing that I would say for sure, although you're paying your debt or you're dealing with debt, you have debt, you can still leverage that whatever disposable income you have after paying off your bills to try to make money on it, right? And I know for a fact, because I know you're doing that, right? I'm doing that, right? I don't really have extreme amounts of debt anymore. Like, I kind of worked my way through that, but I still have some stuff. At the same time, I can tell you this: with, like, I've had the car payment, I've had having to pay like mortgage and all that other stuff, and other bills. When a lot of that stuff stops, bro, and you're getting your check, and it's like, you just, like, people always talking about, like, yep, you get that check, and next thing you know, people knocking, right, trying to get, can I get my monthly? Thank you, right? When that stops, bro, and that money continues to stay in your pocket, you start to get to this point where it's like, dang, what am I going to do with this
It's
money?
different.
Like, what should I do with this money? And that's where I think is fundamentally is where the wealth begins, right? We talk about, like, building wealth is just about bringing in more income than you're putting out for the most part, right? And debt is such a huge killer to that. I had another point on that. So one thing I've noticed, everybody views debt differently, right? And I think you can probably talk about this. I've noticed those of us, like, we're just starting out in our lives and whatnot, right? So we're like, we've always been told debt is bad, debt is terrible, so on and so forth. But in certain circles, debt can be a great thing. The ability to leverage debt is a great thing, right? For those of us who are saying, like, hey, you want to buy an investment property or start a business or look into any kind of venture, those are the types of debts that are very helpful and useful, right? That debt that you're taking on, it's to build revenue, to bring more money in on the long run, right? So that's perfect. So you have people who understand, like, this is how I'm going to use debt. Like, I got a credit card, right? And I remember me and my wife went back and forth on this. Before we met, I had credit cards, so on and so forth. But I had a philosophy with my cards. I have a decent credit limit and all that. I never spent money that I didn't have, ever, right? And by doing that and going along with it, even to this day, like when I get my statement, boom, I pay it off. I've had like when I first started my first credit card in college. Yeah, had a revolving number, accruing interest and so on and so forth, right? But then you start to kind of do the math and figure out, literally, bro, it's they hitting such a lick on your head, man. They hitting a lick, and you look back at whatever it is that you bought. You probably bought something that 3 years later you're not even using. Maybe you bought clothes. Maybe you bought a phone that 3 years later now you're ready to get a new phone, right? And there's nothing wrong with taking the loan out to buy your phone. That's cool. People do that, whatever. But there's other ways to do it, right? I've had a credit card. I had a specific credit card for like my go-to card for better part of 10 years. I've never.
Wow, you're
never
old.
And you're bald. Pick and choose, man. Pick and choose.
Hey, I'll take the bald.
I had a card for a while, bro, and I've never, not one time, ever paid any interest on it, bro. Like, not one time. And it's just having the mindset to be like, all right, I'm gonna pay this debt off, right?
Thanks. That's where it's the mindset, man. It's the mindset, really. Like my question is, I mean, I just answered it, but I want to hear what you think. Like the most important thing as far as like getting out of debt, like what do you think it is? I think, I think two things. First, you got to make a plan for it, and then discipline, which is the most important. Like discipline, and sticking to your plan. Mm-hmm. Like that is the most important thing, because it's so easy to be like, okay, I could do that next time, you know what I'm saying? Or it's so easy to get some extra money that come out of nowhere and not put it towards your debt. It's so easy to put it towards something else, and it's just having that discipline. Like, okay, is this your goal? Like you really want to get out of debt, so okay, you got to be disciplined and stick to your plan, and anything else to come in extra, you know where it got to go. So that way,
right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Like, if you tell me that you're taking, like, for those who still receive a tax return, if you telling me that you take your tax return and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw that out my debt, you got the right mindset. You got the right mindset. If you're telling me you taking that tax return to then accrue more debt by like doing things like maybe buying a new car that you don't need, just buying things that are going to depreciate in value immediately. Yeah, you're probably not on the exact wavelength that's going to get you out your debt sooner rather than later, right? You gotta, man. It's for those who are not in the situation to say like, debt isn't really a thing for me. For those of you who have to deal with it, you have no idea how freeing it is to not have that on your head. And not have to deal with that so much. When you're looking around, man, whether it's your peers or whether you're looking at other people you see on social media, and also don't always believe everything on social media because people be lying all damn day. But I'm talking about social media, people and you know that it's actual factual things, like the life they're living is the life they're living. When you get out of debt, like I mentioned earlier, like you're pulling in, like whether you have your business, whether you have a side hustle, whether you have your main 9 to 5, whatever, or a combination of 2 or 3, all that money is kind of coming in and sitting and accumulating for you, right? So then now you're saying like, oh, well, I can invest this. So now you're using your money to make more money. Or you can say, well, you know what, let me start this business, or let me like do whatever with it that you will, but you have the ability to do it. Like you're not kind of chained or shackled by it, man. It's crazy. And millennials, bruh, if more than any other generation out there are dealing with debt more than anybody, right? Like, and this can. It was funny. I want to organically keep going with this because I think I like where this is about to go. Like millennials have had to deal with the whole trope. Like when we were young, we were told go to college, right? Go to college, get a degree, get a job, you're set.
Facts.
Now, I'm not saying that still is not the case, but I feel like what was missing in that specific teaching was go to college and pick something that would hold you down afterwards, right? I think a lot of times the idea of college was portrayed more so in a fun aspect, which, look, college is fun as hell. I can't tell you how much, like, I can't tell you how much, like, I still have dreams about the things we used to do in college, bro, and just reminiscing or trying to get just trying to, you know,
yeah, dreams.
trying to get a taste of that college life one more time. You feel me? That's why you see these old heads still coming back to homecoming at your school. They do that because the best parts of their life probably took place in college.
On those grounds.
It's just,
yep.
That's just how it is, man. But you got it. You enjoy it, but at the same time, I think a lot of people may have come to college and it was like, oh, I'm gonna enjoy myself, but didn't think about, like, there's something after this. You feel me? And it's like, yo, you're accruing all this debt to get a degree that either it could have been a degree that you actually it can be put to use for something, but you actually didn't even want to do, like, you just studied that because it just, like, hey, I want to be here in college. Yeah, like, you know, I want to get good grades, I want to get the GPA, so on and so forth. But, like, now you're out and, like, you're dealing with the debt, and then, you know, I don't know what you could have got a job with that degree with, but it's not working out the way you planned. And that's not something that people told you. And I don't believe that this is new to our generation, right? I don't believe that's new. I believe that our you know, the previous generations dealt with the same thing, right? If you went to college and studied something that was not in demand as far as professions, all right, cool. Like, you just played the game of, let me pay all this upfront money to then accrue all this little money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough, and please don't hear what I'm saying. Think that I'm trying to shit on anybody's degree. That's not the case. But I'm saying, when you went to college, like, all these decisions we're making, bro, we kind of got, like, one shot at times, right? You get second chances, but you got to think about, like, all right, I'm putting this time in to do this, but what am I getting out of it in the end? You feel me? But now you're seeing so many people who wanted to go towards their passion. Like, when I went to college, my boy, when I decided, like, I studied engineering. I did not study engineering because I said, like, oh, I love engineering. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like, you know, the bread taught to me, but it wasn't even just that. I said, like, okay, what am I good at? Like, I was good at solving problems. I liked technology. I built a computer in high school. I used to look at coding, like, little shit like that. You feel me? That interested me. I would kind of, like, do that stuff in my spare time. So I knew, hey, I feel like if I go in this direction, I would enjoy doing this as a job in the long run, right? You feel me? So it made sense. That's how I made that decision. I didn't make the decision like, okay, what's gonna be interesting, but not too hard. I didn't care about the too hard part. It was like, I just knew I was gonna throw my best at it that I could throw at it. You feel me? And I still enjoyed college. Like, bro, like, I was Greek. I was at the parties. I was like, I'm at 4-for-1s just like everybody else at Cantina. I'm at All You Can Drink Tuesdays. Like, you know, still studying engineering. I'm not gonna say my grades were the best. I ain't gonna say they were the best because, you know, it was some times where I should have stayed my ass at the dorm. But in the day, I still knew that getting the degree, whether the GPA was at a 3.5 or the GPA was at a 2.8, I was gonna be okay. Because no matter what, this is one thing too that, at least for me in my field, you had people you'll realize, man, like, also in college, they harp on that GPA shit so much, bro. And, like, it's all, like, internships, yes, it's important for internships, all that. But hear me out. I was in college, I never got an internship. Never got it. You feel me? Like, GPA, as I joined the frat, that thing kept dropping. Because, you know, it wasn't just because I was just trying to be lazy. It was just hard to balance so much going on. But at the same time, I never lost hope of anything. I was like, my mindset was like, hey, when I get out, once you get your foot in the door, you good. You feel me? Because no matter what, on these jobs, even when you go to school to learn about whatever profession, bro, You learn about all this shit on the job.
Yeah.
Like most of what you're gonna be doing,
They
you learn
teach you.
on the job. If I talking
So
about an
crazy.
engineering degree, what I got from my engineering degree more than anything else, all it taught me is how to approach and solve problems in any spectrum. That is it. Like all the math that I was the matrix, the differential equations, the calc 1, 2, 3,
Diffie-Q,
statistics,
yeah.
financial,
Yes,
diffie,
yeah.
like all that stuff, physics, all that stuff. Because I'm not using none of that stuff on my job. None of it. Like sometimes some things will come
You
into
heard it
play.
here first, people.
I'm not using none of that on the job, my man. All that taught me was, hey, in all those math classes and like those science-based STEM classes, all it taught you was, here, I'm giving you these tools to the puzzle, solve it. And that is literally every day in our life. And it's not just in my profession, bro. It's in everybody's job. You're going to be facing a problem. Even if you're at home and you're sitting here like, yo, how am I supposed to do this thing? This is what I got to work with. How am I going to approach it? Like that's all it is. That's what that taught us.
That's real.
They put us through hell just to build that up.
Quick question. What is
I
on
went
my
on mute right
mind? So do you think you learned more in the classroom or outside the classroom in college?
What do you mean as far as like
Just more for
like
life.
life lessons?
Yes.
Oh, for life?
More for life, like to progress you.
Outside the classroom. Outside the classroom. Easily. Like I said,
Was
all they
that
taught you was how
that
to
through experiences, through organizations, through
experiences and well, a combination of two. If we're talking about specifically the phase of being in college, being in all these organizations and interacting with people and dealing with certain situations, that kind of prepares you for the real world. You feel me? Kind of. When you're in organizations, and I guess the most first thing that comes to mind is you're dealing with trying to get funding for your organization, but you're not getting funding because some higher up is saying like, nah, y'all don't deserve funding because of this or so on and so forth. And then having to navigate that situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very real life thing because, you know, in my world, I can be working on a project that maybe this year I had this much as far as a budget, then it was taken away to be given to something else, so on and so forth. And it's like, how do I navigate that, right?
Yeah.
How do I use the networking to ensure that what I need will be taken care of, right? So that's where the part of when you're involved in college, it's those things you deal with, right? There's also, I guess, the backroom talks and negotiating stuff that takes place. And when I say that, I don't want to say the college right now. I don't know if I want to say the specific college, just in case somebody might come knocking.
I don't need no specifics, but yeah.
Yeah. At specific, you know, at these big time universities, and shoot, any university, I'm not even gonna say big time, any university, when you're dealing with this stuff, you'll have the politicking that's taking place, right? Student government, bro. I've heard some of the craziest stories of how they used to do like backroom deals, bro. And I mean, so wild that there'll be things like, yo, all right, I got ties to this organization and this organization. If you give me, like, let's say you got a party that you're running for student government. If you give me the vice president chair, or like if you give me the secretary chair, I'll make sure that I'll give you the president's seat of this organization, and then the treasurer's seat of this organization. And it's just like, that is a game that's being played across college campuses,
or X amount for the budget, all that. Yeah,
all of that. It's not, and I'm not saying these conversations aren't just being had with like adults. These are with college students doing this, playing this game in politicking. And I don't know if it's because it started one day in 1800 and it just kept going, or if like these kids just came to college.
Yeah, it's all part of the negotiation. Like it's part of how the game goes. Because I mean, when just to kind of go back to what you was talking about as far as like upbringing stuff, like a lot of these kids are in organizations like student government and stuff like that. They are in the fuck it, they in the white fraternity and sororities. You know what I'm saying? Typically, you get what I'm saying. So those are long lines of for lack of a better word, just long lines of legacy. and that junk gets passed down, and the art of negotiation, the art of how they move, and then just that networking. And sometimes they may bring in those people who were here, who are maybe giving money to the school, or you know what I mean, who may be boosting for
your alumni and boosters.
like, so it's a lot of stuff for sure that goes into it. So you definitely learn that, and even to just go simple. Before, I know you about to say something. Just to go simple is like learning how to type up an email to get funding, to get a grant for something. Learning how to to not only have an interview but to give an interview. Like just simple stuff like that.
Look, bro, I'm gonna keep this short, but I'm gonna give like this quick real life thing that happened. Right? You brought up like the white fraternities and other organizations, so on and so forth, and specifically we're talking about PWIs in this situation, right? Not necessarily anyone who's at HBCUs. You may not be able to relate to this, but hear me out and see how things kind of operate. When you're in those fraternities or in these organizations, I mentioned earlier how important exposure is. Exposure, right? When you're a part of that, and I'm not saying that I'm advocating you joining any of that shit, like, because I was not for it. I didn't care. But what I saw was that when you're a part of it, you're privy to certain material and certain things. Specifically, I remember, bro, being in one of my engineering classes, OR2, so Operations Research 2. Basically, hardest class I ever took, bro. And the teacher was just like professor was wild. I ain't gonna say his name, but he was. Look, the average of our tests would be a 24 and like 30, right? So if you got like and grade on a bell curve, right? So everybody's grades are taken into effect in the highest percentage A's, and then B's, then C's, whatever. So knowing that there's a bell curve and so on and so forth, hear this now, you would have organizations who at times in a lot of your classes, in your same classes, it's not just engineering, we can talk about economics, financial accounting, all that, that they have literally the answers to your tests, everything. Whether that be, it could have been historical or it could have been given due to ties. But, anyway, I ain't got to go too deep into that, but I'm just saying.
I have some answers.
Right. Yeah, I got answers too. That's the unspoken game of college. You feel me? That's the politicking in the game. Who you know, right? Who you know. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm gonna work my ass off to figure it out. But sometimes when you actually have the opportunity to like get a lead ahead, you gonna take it. And that's how the real world works. So that's where it gets you ready. But think about this. This is what was wild to me is in that specific class that the average test would be 24, 29. And if you got a 33 or something like that, you got an A. And I'm talking about 33 out of 100. So 5 questions and like you got 1 question right. And it's like, partial, you can get it partially right, so on and so forth. So hopefully you accumulate enough. You have people who have like a lot of the information already and can throw that curve off so much that they get a 60. They're so far out there. And it may be like 4 or 5, and it's always the same little group. And they always have a certain look till you're just like, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. I see you at All You Can Drink Tuesdays, man. I see you at Women Wednesdays. I see you at Friday. You at the same things I'm at.
Thirsty Thursdays, yeah.
I see you at Thursday. I was gonna say Titty Tuesdays, but that's other things. But I see you there. So how is it that? Nah, and then this is what happens is like you happen to get to know these same individuals a little bit, and they actually give you the rundown of what's going on, and then sometimes they may include you in on the jug. Specifically, the jug is they give you the answers, and now you a part of that group, right? But that's bro. Like I feel like that exposure, my man, and women exposure.
Yeah, man. You just go through a lot of things in life, and yeah, man. But definitely, like exposure. That's why I say back to what I said before. Experience, man. Experience is the best teacher in everything. Like, ain't nothing gonna teach you better than going through it.
Yeah. Sure, I went on a whole total tangent rant.
Yeah.
Yep. Get used to that, man. I'm long-winded, y'all. Sorry about that.
It's all good, man. It's all good. But yeah, man, like, hey, definitely I encourage everybody to go and get out of debt, man. Please get out of debt. And one more question before we get out of here, man. Speaking of getting out of debt, you know, as you're trying to get out of debt, like, do you think it's still important to save while you're doing that? Like, if I'm trying to get out of debt, should I still be trying to save at the same time? Like, what you think?
I say yes, but it's about what is saving to you as an individual. To me, it's not getting a savings account and just putting your money in there and having it sit. With my own personal finances, I don't have a savings account. I have a checkings account. I have a checkings account, and I have investment portfolios. And like for the most part, in my checkings, I kind of I have my emergency fund in my checkings, and like the money I spend. But everything else, I just investment. Like, and this is, if you guys don't know this, right? When you have a savings account and you're just letting it sit there, and maybe you have a savings account that's giving you a 1% APR, so a 1% annual percentage return. If you don't know what APR means, okay, you making 1% on that money that's sitting for a year. You want to know what the bank is doing with that money that's sitting there? They're using your money to make money on top of it, right? And you're not getting that cut, not a fair cut. You're getting the 1%, or and shoot, 1% is generous if we being honest, extremely generous. So for me personally, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna let my money just sit there. So that's why when I say the checkers account, I let that sit because that's money that I can immediately get. I don't got to worry about liquidating anything from the portfolios or anything else. I got that, right? But I say the money that you may have been thinking, let me have sit in a savings account, go ahead and buy a stock, buy something. Like, I feel like everybody should know somebody who knows a little bit about stocks. If you're not that motivated to find out enough about how this thing works, at least find someone who knows, who you believe and trust and knows enough to pick their brain and be like, hey, what are you seeing out there? Index funds. You can put all that savings money into index funds, which generally have a return of like 6 to 8%.
You can put something that just, you're gonna, like, if you're worried about losing money like that, you can put something that's just gonna grow annually. You know what I'm saying?
The S&P 500.
Exactly. Yeah. Just a mutual fund. Yeah.
Yeah. The S&P 500 is literally just a mirror of the economy in the country. If you believe the country is going to keep growing and keep progressing and not going to die, put your money in there. It's going to grow. If you take the time to look at index funds that mimic the S&P 500 or a lot of other index funds, you'll see that all they do over time is just grow. It's slower than a lot of other investments, but that 6 to 8% annual return that you're getting, a whole lot better than that 0.25% APR that you get from your bank, where they're taking your money to make like
more money,
significant more, right? So it's crucial to save, but it's about how you're saving and what you're doing with that money that's being saved. I just don't believe in the whole having it just sit there to sit there. Like, I think that's time. That's the other crucial part to all of this. Time is just as important as money in this whole equation of things.
Time
right?
equals money.
Utilize your time as best as you can. So
money equals time. Yep. You really winning though when, like, you get to the point where your money is making its own money, in that way your time is just your time, and that's probably everybody's goal, should be the goal. So that's what I encourage everybody to do. Get out of debt and go live your life, man. Be great.
Hey, hey, like I said, we gonna touch on a little bit of everything out here, man. If y'all wanna touch on finances, it's crazy. We had a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but we go on rants, and this is how I go.
Hey, yeah, man. This how it be. But we want to thank y'all for listening once again. If y'all have anything to add, anything y'all want to say to us, definitely hit us up on our socials. We're going to put them in the description box. You already know.
Plug them right here. Plug them right here.
We got, follow us at ABYST Podcast. That's on everything. That's going to be on the Instagram. That's going to be on the Twitters. That's going to be on the TikTok. And
Oh yeah, we get a
and
TikTok.
then of
TikTok.
course, of course, follow our our respective ones. Me at the underscore King Deem and my boy at Mr. That's Life. And of course subscribe to the podcast. We on all
Subscribe, like,
platforms, all of them.
share,
You know what I'm saying? Subscribe, like,
all of
share.
it, man.
We appreciate y'all for
Hey,
listening, man. And we, of course, we love y'all. We're going to catch y'all next time. And remember, watch the come up.
yes, sir.
Be easy.